And like another thing that I want to get into too is just like how that circle functions as a support system,
Mm.
right? So, have you ever had a feeling where you just didn't feel like you had one? Like, you didn't feel like you could talk to family, friends, like nobody.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of experiences that I've had, but um, um, I, so, like, I would refer back to college because like a lot of my experience with that and fell in front of a more public setting.
Yeah.
I definitely felt silenced before around people that I used to be around the most, and sometimes I felt like there were people I could express myself to behind closed doors, whereas others, I would be publicly shamed, ridiculed, or shut down for having viewpoints that were identical to theirs, or I guess even just oppose their own core beliefs. So that kind of hurt me because I I didn't know who I was anymore at that point. I felt like I had to compromise a part of my identity in order to belong around set people and
Right.
who I used to call friends. But at the same time, like grown from that, and we aren't as oh man, like as close as we used to. But I think
It's
that
breaking up again.
sorry. Every time, I said
You
we
start
don't
getting into
right.
it.
Always brings me out. God dang. But we aren't as close as we used to be. But that distance felt like it was a necessary distance so that we could take some time to really reflect on ourselves, to kind of find our own way, irrespective of maintaining a connection. And I've learned that in a lot of other connections too.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I know what it really feels like to be valued and seen and respected because I set my own boundaries and set my own standards for how I like to be treated. And I only know how I like to be treated now because of how I was mistreated. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm actually like, huh. All right, y'all. I guess it's gonna get personal and vulnerable, but y'all know how I get down over here. So like, I'm literally in the midst of coming through something like that, where I felt I got a little triggered. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got a little triggered.
Yeah.
So I'm a Cancer, and I'm a very like emotionally sensitive person. And sometimes like one of my shadows is just like, feeling like my emotions are too much for people, right?
Mm.
Because what do people always say about Cancers? Oh, y'all are so emotional.
Right.
Y'all do so much and this and that. And it's just like, why y'all so scared of feelings? Why
Mm.
everybody so scared of feelings? But anyway, like like it's so I over time developed a fear that my emotions were too much for other people.
Mm.
And part of that comes from experiences that I've had, right? Because, sometimes when you get emotional, people can run. You
Right.
know, like people, if you're too emotional, everybody can't handle all of those emotions. And I did not know how to properly channel my emotions. I didn't have coping skills. I didn't have people that I felt like I could talk about
Mm.
my emotions with. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like I had people that understand me. So like, you know what I'm saying? I would just emotionally dump on the people that I was closest to.
Mm.
And, be when I would do that, of course they run because they'd be like, holy shit, this is a lot. I gotta get the fuck away from you.
Mm.
Right. But I didn't understand that at the time, right? It just leaves you with a sense of abandonment, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, now we got abandonment issues to work through. Yay.
Right.
So now doing all of this, like I've gone to therapy, I've got coping mechanisms, I've done all of that, but I did go through an experience where, you know, if you're not doing your emotional work, if you're not doing your healing work, you can regress.
Mm.
And I was in the process of beginning to regress, right? And I could feel that happening. And you know what I'm saying? I've learned not to dump. Like I've learned how to deal with my own feelings, but like I'm just an emotional person. And I get that. I understand that. And like somebody told me that my feelings were heavy and I got triggered, but didn't realize I was triggered. So because I was triggered, it's just like, oh, I have to hide these parts of myself. I can't be fully myself. Now I'm feeling really insecure and just
Mm.
kind of like backtracking and going backwards. But I had to realize like there's nothing wrong with my feelings. I'm doing the best that I can to deal with them. Like if I feel myself regressing, I'm going back to therapy, which is I'm going back to therapy, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's just like, and that's why I wanted to have this episode too, because it's just like there are other forms just outside of friendships of help that you can get when you feel misunderstood. And I think it's important for people to understand that there are different ways that you could put together a support team to keep you together. Like, so mine is family, friends, therapist, and coping mechanisms. So like journaling, poetry, this podcast, like, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that where I can pour myself into and transmute all of those feelings and stuff like that. But I had to realize that, you know, yeah, when I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, I ran people away. I get that. I accept that for what it is. But I'm also not going to walk around feeling like my feelings are too much. I'm not going to fear that, you know, because people that are meant to be in my life can understand that because that's just a part of me. Like I'm an emotional person.
Right.
So I can't walk around hiding myself or feeling bad for who I am when I know at my heart that I'm doing the best that I can. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm not taking my stuff out on anybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I do, you know, like I deal with my shit. So it's just like, I'm not going to feel bad for it. Yeah, I felt bad for it in the past when I didn't. But like today, like I have to own my growth and just realize, like, you know, sometimes everything and everybody for you and everybody ain't gonna always understand you or where you're coming from, and that's okay because it's not personal, because these other people have their experiences that make them the way that they are, just like I have my experiences that make me the way I am.
Yeah.
Like, am I the most balanced person? Absolutely not. But I'm doing the work to get there. Just like, you know, the next person isn't going to be perfect. Like, but it's about understanding, you know, the different dimensions of people and wanting to be around people who can accept you just fully. So you can be yourself and you don't have to walk around questioning it, right?
Right.
Because where do a lot of these insecurities come from? It comes from growing up around people that make you feel bad for just being you.
Right. Right.
They be like, oh, you do this? That's weird. Who does that? That's like,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, like being around those, critical, judgmental people for sure can, set us back and make you feel like you're less than who you are because they have unhealed parts of themselves that they haven't looked at. And they're jealous, to be frank, because they're incapable of having that type of trust or optimism or emotional vulnerability. So, and whether your support group might be like a group of friends or a hobby, like, or an organization, right? Like, because I have a few organizations that make me feel like whenever my own circle isn't there, that I can return to and have a another home of some kind to go to. If it doesn't feel like home, then, and if it feels like you have to completely change who you are to be around someone. Like, no, they're not a true friend. So, but yeah, like I see and I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and like sometimes it happens, you know what I'm saying? And it again, like how many times in our lives have we had misunderstandings with people where it's just like this is just where we were at the time and not aligning, you know what I'm saying? Because you can align with people for a moment and then, you know what I'm saying, not be aligned and then be aligned again and then not be aligned. I already said that that happened with my friend when I was 5,
Mm,
you know? So it's like it's not even personal sometimes because like stuff like this again, like I said, like abandonment issues at the time when I didn't understand that it could cause abandonment issues. But if you understand that, you know, sometimes things are just not fully aligning and it's not personal, and sometimes things are just reflections of where we are as people, like, then for me, it just kind of makes it easier to deal with the ebbs and flows and the coming and going of people versus feeling like devastated and upset when, you know, things are just not in alignment anymore.
for sure. And I think having a certain level of detachment when it comes to our connections and relationships is also important, because I think, making ourselves too vulnerable um, with anyone can honestly burn a connection just as quickly or as fast, whether that's a romantic or platonic connection. But I think it's especially important to know that whenever we're around people that make us feel that sort of sense of home, as you said, that we don't have to, you know, take all of their trauma and heal them and completely change them ourselves, or vice versa, right? Where
Right. Yeah.
we expect them to do that of us, but um, having space, or at least in my own friendships or friend groups and certain relationships, where I'm able to confess some of those deeper emotions from someone that is emotionally available, they'll either offer me a ear, right, to listen, or to give me some sort of support, whether that's financial or physical. Sometimes I just need a hug. Like,
Exactly.
I'm a human being and they're a human being, and you, love heals all at the end of the day. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's so easy to feel like a piece of trash whenever we express some of those wounded parts of ourselves, and then for them only to get activated, reactivated,
Yeah.
um, after making ourselves vulnerable to them.